Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. We are from Group 5. We are here would like to present our presentation about accounting for human rights. But before we start our presentation, we would like to introduce ourselves first. Starting from me, my name is Kinanti Falina, and my last three digits of NPM is 062. I am here in Zoom meeting with two of my friends of the group, which are
I'm Keisha Justina with the last three digits of my NPM is 024.
I'm Anggun Cahyanti with 3-digit last NPM 077.
And then before we start, we would like to explain about table of contents of our presentation first. This presentation would like to explain about the introduction of human rights, and then human rights with organizations and accounting, and then human rights protection and regulation. And then we also would like to present accounting for human rights practices, and then also we would like to present the developing human rights accounting and accountability practices. And the first material will be brought by me, which is for the introduction itself. We would like to know more about human rights. So human rights is basically the basic rights and freedoms to which all humans are entitled. Um, In United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, in short UDHA, which declared in 1948, UDHR declared that human rights are consist of the first one is civil and political rights, including the right to life, freedom of expression, pursuit of happiness, and also equality. And then UDHR also declared that human rights consist of economic, social, and cultural rights. For example, is the right to participate, work, and education. And here are the several recent issues regarding human rights. So after these issues being conducted, the recognition of human rights in the world start to gain more attention in society, which is the first issues is Rana Plaza. Rana Plaza is issue when an 8-story commercial building were collapsed and killed over 1,000 people in Bangladesh 2030. The aftermath of these issues give attention to the safety concerns, health hazards, and other working conditions in the another building. And then the other issues is modern slavery. Modern slavery happened when the employee is forced to work, experiencing mental abuse, and being used unfairly. In minerals industry may occur child labor, human rights abuse, and illegally purchased weapons. How the human rights. So the increasing attention on some human rights issues in such organization could be more persuasive for other competitors and business in the industry. So in industry there is a business that start to took more attention to human rights in its business process and practices. Other business in the industry may would like to also took more attention to the issues of human rights itself, and then also by building contracts inside the business, it could arrange conditions better regarding the employees' human rights. And then there is a potential risk about how human rights occur in business. Human rights is one of the controversial issues that ever happened. Therefore, human rights. So a business have a bad reputation. When a business have a bad condition of human rights, it could lead to a bad reputation of an organization itself. And then I would like to also explain about human rights protection organizations and regulations. There are a lot. The first one I would like to explain about the United Nations. So the United Nations is the international institution in promote and protect human rights. The United Nations have three major regulation and protection, which is the first one is United Nations Guiding Principles of Business and Human Rights, which is the principles is all companies have a role to play in respecting human rights through responsible operation and respecting all relevant national and international laws and standards. And then the second one is International Labour Organization or ILO. ILO is a UN agency to set international labor standards. ILO have a declaration in 1998 in order to promote principle and rights, which are the first one is the ILO declared that freedom and effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining, and then abolition of child labor, and then elimination of discrimination. The last one is United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So Nations have Sustainable Development Goals, and one of the goal, which is goal number 8, about decent work and economic growth, also can be included as a way to protect human rights. And then other regulation and organization will be explained more by my team members.
So the next is OECD Guidelines for Multinational Enterprises. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, is an international organization that consists of 38 member countries, mostly developed countries, that discuss and develop economic and social policy to shape policies that foster prosperity, equality, opportunity, and well-being for all. The OECD guidelines reflect the expectation from governments to business on how to act responsibly. They cover all key areas of business responsibility, including human rights, labor rights, environment, bribery, consumer interests, as well as information disclosure, science and technology, competition, and taxation. Next. And the third is governments and national laws. Government and national laws include various and differentiated protections against human rights abuses by businesses. Examples: first is Modern Slavery Acts. And the examples of Modern Slavery Acts are first the California Transparency in Supply Chains Act that established in 2012. It requires large manufacturers doing business in California to be transparent regarding their actions to eradicate slavery and human trafficking in their supply chains. And the second is the UK's Modern Slavery Act that made in October 2015. And the Modern Slavery Act requires companies in England and Wales with turnover in excess of 38 million pounds sterling to ensure that slavery and human trafficking is not taking place in their businesses and supply chains. And the second example of government and national laws is conflict mineral regulations. And the example of the regulation is the Dodd-Frank Act in US that made in 2010. It contains disclosure requirements for companies in relation to their operations in conflict zones and includes a requirement that companies using gold, tin, tungsten, and tantalum make efforts to determine if those materials came from the Democratic Republic of Congo or DRC or an adjoining country. Next. And the fourth is international non-governmental organizations. And the two famous non-governmental organizations that talks about human rights are first Amnesty International. Amnesty International is established in 1961 and is a long-running and a well-known international organization focusing on protecting and educating around human rights. Amnesty International seeks to maintain full independence from governments, political ideologies, economic interests, or religions, and hence, they, for instance, do not accept any funds for human rights research from governments or political parties. And the second one is Human Rights Watch or HRW. It's an international non-governmental organization headquartered in New York City that conducts research and advocacy on human rights. The group pressures governments, policymakers, companies, and individual human rights abusers to denounce abuse and respect human rights and often works on behalf of refugees, children, migrants, and political prisoners. Next. Accounting for human rights practices. Companies can impact human rights both directly through their own operations and indirectly through their supply chains and business relationships. Accounting plays a crucial role in capturing and reporting on the financial implications of these human rights considerations. Next. And one important aspect of the relationship between human rights and accounting in a company is risk management and reporting. Companies are increasingly expected to identify and manage human rights risks within their operations and supply chains. Failure to do so can result in legal, reputational, and financial risks. And several key points of the connection between human rights and corporate financial risks are first, reputation and brand image. Violation of human rights by a corporation can lead to severe damage to its reputation and brand image. It can affect customers and investors' concerns. Second is regulatory compliance. Failure to comply with human rights regulations can result in legal consequences, fines, and sanctions. And the third one is operational disruptions. Protests, boycotts, and negative media coverage as the effects of human rights abuse can disrupt production, supply chains, and distribution networks, impacting a company's ability to deliver products and services. And the last one is supply chain risks. Issues such as child labor, unsafe working conditions, and environmental degradation in the supply chain can pose significant financial risks, including supply chain disruptions, increased costs for compliance, and potential losses. And that's the explanation from me. The next material will be delivered by Anggun.
Okay, I'm gonna explain about how accounting can enhance accountability for human rights. So there are two with human rights due diligence. The diligence should focus on both actual and potential adverse human rights impacts. This means that while it is important that a company seeks to remediate any actual impacts, it is equally significant that effort is put into preventing or mitigating any potential future impact. The second is accounting function and human rights. Accounting practice can be helpful in diminishing the potential of human rights violation inside the organization boundaries and its supply chain. The accounting function can be a key role in terms of developing sufficient information system as well as in collecting and accessing the information. Then the human rights reporting and disclosure. The first one is sustainability reporting frameworks. In the GI standard, the human rights disclosure are spread out across several disclosure standards. This implies that the GIS reporting guidelines cover both the entity exposures and involvement in activities which may involve human rights issues in their operation as well as their action and policy. Ensuring that staff are aware of and familiar with human rights issues and responsibility. The second is UN Guiding Principle Reporting Framework. The UN Guiding principal reporting framework has intentionally been designed to be straightforward and easily enforceable. It contains 31 questions touching on areas such as public commitment, impact assessment, and tracking of performance, including detailed and practical equations. The third one is regulated reporting practice. Organizations are adapting reporting practice to comply with modern and conflict minerals legislation. The Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales offers guidance with evolving legislation. Overall, reporting on human rights is expected to gain more global attention. And this is developing human rights accounting and accountability practice. The asked question which will better reporting and greater transparency improve human rights, reporting boundaries and accountability, and summary of questions concerning accounting and for human rights. And this is the first question. Will better reporting and greater transparency improve human rights? The intersection of accounting practice of human rights consideration pose challenge with a predominant focus on reporting and disclosures rather than seamless integration into organizational practice. So, is reporting greater transparency improve human rights? Is yes, because transparent reporting holds organizations accountable for their action, setting a cultural responsibility, and acknowledge shortcomings. Next. The second is reporting boundaries and accountability. The responsibility of organizations for human rights is increasingly recognized as extending beyond their formal boundaries, particularly evident in complex supply chains that span multiple countries. And the third is summary of question, recognize the concern that corporate power can lead to hidden human rights abuse, the risk implies the need for a more comprehensive approach to accounting for human rights in the workplace. This involves exploring different forms of accounting and considering various entities as potential account providers, such as employee health and safety, authorities, and indigenous communities and NGOs.
So that's all from us. Thank you so much for your attention. Uh, we would like to apologize if we have any mistake in delivering our materials. Have a good day.